Welcome to the Institute of Advanced Astrology, Metaphysics, and Quantum Innovation. This is our complete lecture series, The Cosmological Synthesis, in our advanced curriculum for Genius Apprentices. So first, we're going over the primordial architecture, foundations of cosmic language, and the objective is to establish astrology not as a predictive art, but as the fundamental syntax of cosmic consciousness expressed through multiple cosmological systems. The three cosmological paradigms. We have our Western tropical system, which is the psychology of seasonal consciousness, the precessional drift as cosmic evolution of archetypes, why 0 degrees Aries at vernal equinox represents the moment of conceptualization. Vedic side rail system, the fixed star anchored reality, the Ayanamsa 27 degrees current difference as the karmic latency gap between intention and manifestation, exploring Lahiri versus Raman versus Krishna Murti Ayanamsas as different dialects of cosmic truth. Egyptian decanic system, the 36 decans as intermediaries between the zodiac and fixed stars. Each decan's 10 degrees span representing a specific quality of time rather than space. Let's look at part 2, which is the quantum consciousness postulate, presentation of the unified field equation of astrology. And here's our equation. And now we know what these symbols are with my code breaker. So we have archetypal potential, Western psychological framework. And then we have our karmic actualization, our Vedic destiny framework. And we have our temporal quality, Egyptian timing framework. And we have our T equaling proper time along world line. All right. So our event equals Western astrology, multiplying Vedic astrology, and then we multiply our decanic temporal quality. So again, our archetypal potential, karmic actualization, and temporal quality, and proper time along the world line. Next, we need to use our practical synthesis methodology, where we exercise calculating the triune birth chart by casting a tropical natal chart, psychological self, and then we cast sidereal natal chart with 3 different Ayanamsas, karmic selves, and we overlay decanic rulers on both temporal quality modifiers. Next, we identify where planets maintain sign placement across all systems, equaling the core karmic constants, and we identify where planets change sign, equaling evolutionary choice points. For example, we analyze the Sun at 15 degrees Leo, tropical. In Vedic, it's 18 degrees Cancer in Lahiri. So we have our tropical diagnosis and our Vedic diagnosis and a synthesis. Tropically, the conscious ego expression is dramatic, creative, and filled with leadership because it's in the sign of Leo. But Vedic, the soul's purpose, is emotional security, nurturing, and ancestral healing, Cancer. Leadership through emotional intelligence, creativity expressed through domestic caring domains. And here's the homework. If you will, students will analyze their triune gap profile and write 5,000 words on one planetary shift between systems, exploring its psychological karmic implications. Now that we got through our first lecture, we can really begin to understand astrology. With our second lecture, time as a polyphonic system synchronizing dasha, progressions, and transits. Our objective is to develop a multidimensional model of temporal unfolding, integrating Vedic dashas, Western progressions, and transpersonal planets. All right, part 1 is the 3 temporal frequencies. We have micro time being transits, daily planetary movements, the weather of consciousness. Mesotime, progressions, dashas, personal unfolding, the climate patterns. Secondary progressions, 1 day equals 1 year, psychological development timeline. Bimshotari Dasha, 120-year cycle. Soul curriculum timeline. Yogini Dasha, 36-year cycle. Shakti, consciousness awakening timeline. Macro time, Yugas, great ages. Collective evolution, the geological shifts. In Kali Yuga through Satya Yuga cycles. Platonic Great Month, 2,160 years versus Yuga, which is 432,000 years. Correlations. Okay. Our part 2 is the harmonic convergence algorithm, the development of the temporal resonance index, TRI. Okay, so DT is the current dasha period strength, 0 to 1 normalize. Our PT is our progressed aspect strength, and our TT is our transit activation strength. And also, we have quantum entanglement operator between the systems, being this. And we have A, B, Y, O as individual consciousness coefficients calculated from the natal chart. Okay. So again, that's A, B, Y, O as our individual consciousness coefficients. Let's talk about part 3, being a case study, the awakening timeline, an analysis of a spiritual teacher's enlightenment event. So tropical, we have a progressed moon conjunct natal Neptune, psychological dissolution. Vedic, we have Ketu Mahadasha, Jupiter Antardasha, karmic completion meets wisdom. Transits, Pluto stationary direct on the natal sun, transformational breakthrough in the synthesis. All 3 systems align within 30 days. TRI greater than 0.85 equals the threshold for consciousness shift. Here's our practical application. Building a personal temporal map that predicts. Windows of destiny, TRI being greater than 0.7, inevitable fateful periods. Fields of choice, 0.3 being lesser than TRI. And TRI, actually, hang on a second. Yeah, so 0.7 is greater than the TRI and 0.3 is lesser than the TRI. Decision point periods. In our quiescent zones, TRI being lesser than 0.3. Rest integration periods. In our lab exercise, students will calculate their TRI for the next 5 years and identify one window of destiny for conscious preparation. All right. All right, now let's look at lecture 3, which is the quantum horoscope superpositional chart analysis. Our objective is to reconceptualize the natal chart as a quantum probability field rather than a fixed destiny map. Part 1 being the Schrödinger chart theorem. Every planet exists in superposition of all possible signs with probability amplitude, all possible houses with probability amplitude, all possible dignity states with a probability amplitude. In the natal chart we calculate is merely the most probable collapse based on birth space-time coordinates. With our mathematical formulation, where C SHD squared, which is literally right here, that's the probability of observing that specific combination. Part 2, observational collapse mechanisms, cultural collapse, Western versus Vedic versus Chinese systems as different observational frameworks. Intentional collapse, conscious focus can shift probability amplitudes. Transit-induced collapse, passing planets measure specific chart sectors. Part 3, we have our Vedic contributions to quantum astrology. Nakshatras as quantum spin states. The 27 nakshatras represent 27 possible spin orientations of planetary energy. Vargas, divisional charts as probability distributions, D1 Razi, 1D probability distribution, D9 Avamsa, 9D refined distribution, D10 Dasamsa, career probability distribution, etc. So the chart of charts concept. The complete quantum description requires all 16 Vargas simultaneously. This equals a 16-dimensional probability amplitude. Here's our practical exercise, quantum chart meditation, where student selects one challenging placement. For example, Saturn in the 7th house, enters a meditative state, holding awareness of Saturn's superposition across all the signs and houses, intentionally collapses waveform to most beneficial possible manifestation. Document shifts in life experience over the following lunar cycle. And here's our research assignment. Develop a mathematical model predicting collapse probabilities based on consciousness state, EEG measurements, karmic readiness, Vedic Shadbala scores, and temporal support, current dashas. Alright, so lecture 4 is the metaphysical anatomy of planets from Graha to archetype, with the objective to synthesize planetary understanding across Western, Vedic, and metaphysical systems into a unified field theory of planetary consciousness. Essentially, what I just said, we're going to break down into the sevenfold planetary spectrum, and for each classical planet, we explore Sun, Surya. In Western speaking, it's your consciousness, your will, and your vital principle. In Vedic, it's Atman, soul, paternal lineage, and government. Quantum, the measurement device of reality, collapses quantum potentials. Metaphysical, the central monad around which psyche orbits. And consciousness state, waking awareness, ego continuity. Okay? And Sun is also, just generally speaking, masculinity, and more of the yang. And then we have the moon, which is Chandra, also the yin, and, the feminine, the opposite of the sun. In Western speaking, it's the unconscious with emotions and maternal mother figures. In Vedic speaking, it's the mind, manas, public, fertility, and memory. Quantum, it's the probability wave itself, fluid, responsive to observation. Metaphysical, the reflective surface of consciousness. Consciousness state, dreaming, emotional flux. So now that we have our main things that are important, which is our two lunaries, the sun and the moon, we'll go into Mars, also known as Mangala. Oops. Alright, here we go. I was trying to erase the line over here for the next part. But for Mars, Western speaking, it's assertion, desire, and aggression. Vedic, it's energy, Shakti, courage, siblings, and land. Quantum is the momentum operator, directionality of will. Metaphysical is the principle of differentiation, ahamkara and samkaya. Consciousness state, focus, intention, and willful action. Let's look at part 2, which is the shadow planets, Rahu, Ketu versus Pluto. So Rahu is the north node of the moon, and we're talking about Pluto, which is a very warlike planet. So both represent transformation through shadow integration. Rahu is karmic desire, material obsession, and technological advancement, because Rahu, being the north node of the moon, it's also the head without a body. So Pluto is your psychological shadow, or the collective psychological shadow. Again, the collective unconscious and rebirth. Here's the unified theory. Rahu equals the external shadow, samsara, and Pluto equals the internal shadows, psyche. And quantum aspect are the hidden variables of destiny. Part 3, we're looking at the trans-Saturnian integration, mapping beyond traditional systems. So Uranus, and our Vedic equivalent for it, is sudden enlightenment, satori, and technological revolution. Neptune, the Vedic equivalent, it's a moksha principle and the dissolution of Maya. Pluto is already addressed with Rahu synthesis. Here's the practical application, the planetary alchemy ritual for transforming difficult placements. We identify planet in challenging position, calculate its Vedic deity correspondence. For example, Venus equals Lakshmi, and we determine its quantum state, whether it's collapsed or superposition. We design ritual combining Western planetary hour timing, Vedic mantra, puja to corresponding deity, quantum meditation on alternative probable states, Hermetic principle application, for example, Venus, and the principle of correspondence. Here's our case study. We're transforming Saturn restriction into Shani, a wisdom teacher. So tropical, you have Saturn in the first house, meaning self-limitation. Vedic, and we have Shani exalted in Libra, being the potential for supreme justice. Quantum, collapse from limitation waveform to mastery waveform. Here's the ritual. Saturday during Saturn hour, chanting Shani mantra, visualizing Saturn as a wise elder rather than restricting force. Okay? I was thinking of naming these videos Advanced Astrology Food for Thought with Piscean 05, but I'm wondering if it should just be called Advanced Astrology Food for Thought, or Piscean's Advanced Astrology Food for Thought. And that's where we'll go from there on this channel. So this is the 5th lecture, and we'll change the color to just yellow or something. Change these colors up so we're looking like we're having fun here. Okay. So we're going to talk about the house matrix, bhava, quadrants, and multidimensional reality. Even though there's not just one, there's more than 64 of these. But you've seen my other video talking about that. So here's the objective: to develop an integrated house theory synthesizing Vedic bhava, Western quadrant systems, and quantum field theory. Part 1, the threefold house nature. Each house operates simultaneously as field of experience, Vedic bhava, area of life where karma manifests, psychological domain, Western, aspect of psyche, soul development, and quantum probability zone, region of reality with specific collapse tendencies. Part 2, we're going over the bhava versus whole sign controversy, a resolution, mathematical synthesis. So this is where weights, WI, are calculated from. Birth latitude, Placidus dominance increases with latitude. Consciousness type, bhava stronger for spiritually developed. Cultural context, whole sign stronger in traditional societies. And really quick, what we'll say is, just so you know, this is what I was trying to get at. Okay. We have bhava in the whole sign and Placidus. Our birth latitude is the Placidus dominance being increased with the latitude. Okay? Our consciousness type, Bhava stronger for spiritually developed. In our cultural context, whole sign stronger in traditional societies. So now we can go to part 3, the quantum house model, where each house is a potential well with ground state, most probable manifestation, traditional meanings, excited states, higher energy manifestations, spiritual evolved expressions, quantum tunneling, events that seem to jump between houses. Here's an example. 8th house, quantum states. Let's use exactly what I just said, the ground state, most probable manifestation. And then we have our excited states here, 1, 2, 3, and we have our tunneling events, quantum tunneling. Okay, so no need to get confused. Ground state in the 8th house. So death, inheritance, trauma, classical. Excited state 1, psychological transformation, modern. Excited state 2, occult mastery, quantum consciousness, metaphysical. Excited state 3, collective healing, ancestral redemption, evolutionary. Here's our tunneling events. 8th house planets affecting 2nd house finances, inheritance. Or 5th house, creativity, depth, psychology. So now we're mixing. Mix the elements, mix the individual elements of the planets, and then intertwine for a synthesis. Okay, so part 4, we're going over our special synthesis, the angular trinity, the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th houses as a consciousness axis. Okay. The 1st house is Lagna, individual consciousness, Aham. The 5th house is Putra, creative expression, mind, children, Buddhi. The 9th house is Dharma, cosmic consciousness, the Guru, Atman. Quantum, the 3 terms in a consciousness wave function. This is it. Here's our practical exercise, the house state elevation ritual. We have 5 different steps here. We're going to identify the most challenging house in the natal chart. We're going to calculate its current dasha period influence. We're going to determine its quantum state, likely ground state if it's challenging. We are to design month-long practice to elevate to the next excited state, corresponding planetary worship, Vedic, archetypal work, Western, quantum meditation on the desired state, and document shifts in the house domain experiences. Now that we've gone through Lecture 5, I'm proud to introduce to you Lecture 6 and this 12 lecture series video. We're going over the aspect geometry of reality, Dristi, aspects, and quantum entanglement. Okay, which we've already been talking about a little bit. But not so much Dristi and aspects into more detail in this quantum entanglement. So our objective is to develop a unified aspect theory integrating Vedic Drishti, Western aspects, and quantum entanglement phenomena. Sounds simple enough, but it's not. It's a lot of work. So part 1 is the dimensionality of aspect. 1D aspects, conjunctions, linear alignment, maximum intensity. 2D aspects, squares, oppositions, trines, planar relationships, classical dynamics. 3D aspects, Vedic Drishti, volumetric influence, whole sign awareness. 4D aspects, quantum entanglement, non-local connection beyond space-time. Part 2, Vedic Drishti as field theory. So each planet projects a consciousness field with specific geometry. Sun and the Moon, full field awareness, all directions. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, special directional focus, 4th, 7th, 10th houses, etc. Mathematical model. Drishti strength equaling F, distance, planetary type, house relationship. Okay. Part 3, quantum entanglement aspects. We have the Bell's theorem of astrology. When two charts share significant connections, for example, parent-child, soulmates, their planetary positions become entangled such that measuring transiting one affects the other instantaneously. Correlation strength is greater than classical astrology would predict. Mathematical formulation. We're going over our entanglement coefficient being our big E, and that's equaling a whole bunch of other stuff. So this fun thing and this. So these are planetary wave functions in two charts. And that's helping us understand like composite charting or synastry charts, whatever you want to call them. We're using quantum and we're looking at these aspects in such charts. Okay. And now let's get into part 4, the complete aspect matrix. For any 2 points in a chart or between charts, here's what we calculate. The total influence being Western orb-based aspect, 0 to 100% strength based on orb, Vedic Drishti influence based on planetary gaze rules, harmonic resonance, 7th harmonic, 9th harmonic, etc., quantum entanglement factor for significant relationships, temporal modulation, current dasha, transit activation. Our practical application is relationship quantum analysis. For any relationship, we calculate what? Synastry. Of course, that's our Western interpersonal aspects. Drishti exchange, Vedic mutual gazing, quantum entanglement coefficient from past life indicators, and current transit activation level. Our case example is a business partnership. Okay? So Western, we have Jupiter conjunct Saturn. If you don't know what that means, well, it means expansion meets limitation. Why? Because Jupiter is the planet of expansion, and Saturn is limitation. A conjunction is where two planets are meeting. Okay? Vedic, mutual 7th house Drishti, contractual relationship. Quantum, high entanglement, past business karma. Prediction, intense but faded partnership with boom-bust cycles. That's Jupiter and Saturn together. Jupiter is Sagittarius and Pisces. And what is Saturn? Capricorn and Aquarius. Okay. Let's look at our laboratory exercise. Students will measure entanglement strength and known relationships by predicting timing of events for person A based on person B's transits, testing accuracy against classical synastry predictions, developing entanglement coefficients for different relationship types. Lecture 7, Nakshatra Quantum Field Theory, the 27-dimensional consciousness matrix. Our objective is to explore nakshatras not as fixed stars, but as 27 fundamental quantum fields of consciousness. Okay? So first, let's look at nakshatras as a quantum field. So each nakshatra represents a specific quantum field with unique properties, a range of 13-20 degrees, uncertainty, principle, and action, a presiding deity, the field's conscious aspect, and a symbolic form, the field's phenomenological appearance. Part 2 is the threefold nakshatra nature. We look at gunas being qualities. Sattva, 7 nakshatras, purification fields. Rajas, 10 nakshatras, activation fields. And tamas, 10 nakshatras, consolidation fields. Our goals, purusharthas. Dharma, 7 righteousness fields, Artha, 7 resource fields, Kama, 6 desire fields, and Moksha, 7 liberation fields. Quantum states, ground state, traditional Vedic meanings, excited states, higher dimensional correspondences. Part 3, Nakshatra, Western star correspondence, mapping to fixed stars beyond Vedic system, Ajwini, Y Aritis, Western Mesartan, Barini, 41 Aritis, Western Hamal, etc. with quantum field unification. Part 4, the 27-dimensional consciousness space. If each nakshatra is a basis vector in consciousness space, or C_I square equals the probability of that nakshatra field being active. Planetary nakshatra interaction. A planet in a nakshatra is colored by that field. So planet in nakshatra equals planet nakshatra. Tensor product equals the combined state, if you didn't get that. Here's a practical application. We have the nakshatra field activation, where we identify your moon's nakshatra, the emotional field, identify current Mercury nakshatra, mental field, calculate interference pattern between fields, design daily practice to optimize field interaction. For example, Moon in Rohini, growth field, and Mercury in Ardra, disruption field. Potential: growth through mental disruption. Challenge: emotional instability for mental chaos. Practice specific mantras to harmonize fields. Here's the research assignment. Develop a nakshatra field generator, a sound-like device that produces the quantum signature of each nakshatra for consciousness attunement. Okay. Let's look at lecture 8, the karmic algebra, synthesizing Varga, harmonic and progressive systems. So our objective is to develop a mathematical framework for karma calculation, integrating divisional charts, harmonic astrology, and progressive techniques. Part 1, it's the... If we don't have any more mishaps, let me just close out of everything. Okay. Our objective is to develop a mathematical framework for karma calculation, integrating divisional charts, harmonic astrology, and progressive techniques. Harmonic. So part 1, the Varga multiverse. Each divisional chart represents a parallel reality. Being D1 Razi, physical reality probability distribution. D9 Navamsa, soulmate spiritual reality. D10 Dasamsa, career dharma reality. D16 Kalamsa, past life karma reality, etc. up to D60 Shastyamsa, finest karmic distinctions. Here's our quantum interpretation. These aren't separate charts, but different projections of the same quantum karmic wave function onto different subspaces. Part 2, Western harmonics as frequency domains. Harmonic charts equals Fourier transforms of the natal chart. The first harmonic is fundamental frequency, the natal chart. The ninth harmonic is the Navamsa equivalent. The 10th harmonic is the Dasamsa equivalent. And our mathematical proof is showing Varga divisions as specific harmonic extractions. Part 3, the karmic wave function. So karma, where V runs over all divisional charts and AV equals reality amplitude for that Varga. Okay. In karmic probability of experiencing Varga, V reality equals AV2. Part 4 is our karmic algebra, calculating reality weights. For any life domain X, its experience reality is as follows, where weights W are determined by consciousness evolution level, current dasha period, free will choices, and transit activations. If you are not aware with Vedic astrology, I suggest you watch my other videos. This is essentially what it boils down to. Our practical system is the karmic dashboard, developing a software that shows for any life area. Default probability based on birth chart, current reality weight based on consciousness state, projected trajectory based on dasha transits, intervention levers, rituals to shift weights. Our case study is the career analysis with D1 Razi, the 10th Lord in the 6th house, service career. D10 the Samsa, 10th Lord in the 1st house, leadership potential. Synthesis, service leadership, doctor, teacher, humanitarian. Current weights, D1 70%, D10 30%, currently in service role. Intervention, rituals to increase the D10 weight to 50% for leadership transition. Lab exercise, students will calculate their karmic weights for relationships, D1, D7, D9, and design a 40-day practice to optimize the ratio. Okay. So now, let's look at Lecture 9, Consciousness Engineering, Yoga Synthesis, and Quantum Manifestation. This objective for Lecture 9 is to develop a few practical technologies for consciousness evolution based on astrological yoga synthesis and quantum principles. Okay? Part 1 is the yoga multiverse. The Vedic yoga system. Planetary combinations producing specific effects. Raja yogas, royal combinations. Dana yogas, wealth combinations, etc. Western equivalent. Aspect patterns, grand trines, T-squares, etc. So our quantum synthesis is yogas as resonant circuits in consciousness field that amplify specific probabilities when activated. Part 2, the yoga activation theorem. A yoga exists in potential form until consciousness recognition, individual becomes aware of it. Dasha activation, appropriate planetary period. Transit trigger, current planetary activation. Quantum collapse, intentional manifestation. Mathematical model, yoga strength equals natal strength multiplied by the dasha activation multiplied by the consciousness coefficient. Part 3, consciousness engineering protocols for activating beneficial yogas. Identification, locate all Raja yogas in chart. Timing, calculate optimal dasha transit periods. Preparation, purification practices before activation window. Amplification rituals during activation period. Integration practices to stabilize gains. For transforming challenging yogas, quantum reframing, reinterpret yoga from higher consciousness. Energy redirection, channel challenging energy into constructive outlets. Consciousness expansion, elevate beyond yoga's limitations. Part 4, we have the quantum manifestation protocol, and we are combining Vedic muhurta, optimal electional timing, Western progression, psychological readiness, quantum principles, observation collapse mechanics, metaphysical laws, hermetic principles application. There's our 5-step protocol. Calculate quantum probability of desired outcome from charts. Identify collapse window, optimal astrological timing. Prepare consciousness, purification, intention setting. Perform collapse ritual at the exact moment. And we integrate a new reality, post-ritual practices. Okay? So let's look at our case study. Being a career quantum leap. So in the natal chart, there's a strong D10 but weak current manifestation. We identify the Jupiter dasha and Jupiter transit to the 10th house, and we prepare a 40-day Jupiter purification practice. Our collapse ritual during exact Jupiter transit, ritual to collapse career wave function to highest probable state. We have a documented career shift within 3 months as our result. Laboratory assignment. Students will design and execute one quantum manifestation ritual for a specific goal, documenting the process and results scientifically. All right. So hopefully you guys are understanding what I'm trying to get at in this video. Teaching you advanced astrology, giving you some food for thought, and I will be putting this together for a big book eventually. It's just going to be a very long book. Google Docs will get mad at me if I don't erase. Alright, we didn't go over 10 quite yet. Okay, so this is lecture 10. Essentially, I'm going to be going over the temporal hologram, integrating dasha, tajika, and solar returns. Our objective is to master time as a holographic medium through synthesis of multiple timing systems. Part 1, the holographic time model. Time isn't linear, but holographic. Each moment contains past imprint, sanchita karma, present manifestation, prarabdha karma, future potentials, agami karma, all accessible through specific time keys. Part 2, the 4 timing keys. Vimshottari Dasha, it's a 120-year cycle, soul curriculum timeline. Dajika Varshapal, solar returns, annual unfolding blueprint. Progressions, secondary, tertiary, psychological development timeline, transits, daily activation patterns. Part 3 is a temporal interference pattern. When multiple timing systems align, they create constructive interference, amplified effects, fated events, destructive interference, canceled effects, escape karma, beat patterns, cyclical rhythms of opportunity, challenge. Mathematical model, where S runs over all timing systems with frequencies WS specific to each system. Part 4 is the practical temporal navigation, the annual planning protocol. Cast a solar return, Western and Vedic versions, identify dasha period for coming year, calculate progress chart for year, map major transits for year, identify resonance peaks when systems align, plan activities according to temporal energies, the escape karma algorithm for challenging periods predicted by multiple systems. Identify the earliest warning, which system predicts it first. Calculate interference options, rituals to create destructive interference. Identify refuge periods, times when other systems offer protection. So we execute transformation before prediction manifests. Here's our case study, navigating a Saturn period. So our dasha, Saturn Mahadasha beginning, solar return, Saturn prominent, progression, Saturn aspecting natal planets, transit, Saturn returning to natal position, synthesis, major life restructuring inevitable, strategy, conscious surrender and restructuring versus resistance and suffering. Lab exercise. Students will create a temporal map for the next 3 years showing high probability destiny points, all systems aligned, choice windows, mixed signals, preparation periods before major cycles, integration periods after major cycles. Okay. Um, okay. We're gonna go into lecture 11. And this is the Cosmic Symphony, planetary music, mantra, and quantum frequencies. Our objective is to explore astrology as a vibrational science through synthesis of planetary tones, Vedic mantras, and quantum resonance. So part 1 is the 3 vibrational systems. We have Western planetary tones, based on orbital frequencies, Kepler's Harmony of the Worlds, Vedic planetary mantras, Baja seed, sounds for each graha, quantum resonance frequencies, each planet's quantum signature frequency. Part 2, the unified vibrational matrix. Each planet vibrates at multiple frequencies simultaneously. Physical frequency, orbital period translated to audible range, metaphysical frequency, archetypal resonance, consciousness frequency, effect on human awareness states, quantum frequency, field vibration, and Planck scale. Mathematical synthesis. Direct sum equals all frequencies present simultaneously. We're using planets, the physical, metaphysical, and consciousness in quantum in a synthesis, as you can see. So part 3 is practical applications. Planetary sound healing, where we calculate personal resonant frequencies from the natal chart, create custom sound baths combining Western planetary tones, Vedic Baja mantras, and quantum beat frequencies. Mantra optimization, standard Vedic mantras versus personalized based on natal chart strengths, weaknesses, current dasha periods, and specific intentions. Quantum entrainment devices, developing technology that emits correct planetary frequencies for current transits, personalized based on natal chart, adjusted in real time based on consciousness feedback. Part 4, the Great Invocation, a synthesis ritual, designing a daily practice incorporating temporal alignment at correct planetary hour, sonic activation, planetary tones and mantras, visual focus, yantra, mandala, corresponding to planet, quantum intention, collapsing desired probability waveforms, consciousness expansion, meditating on planetary archetype. For example, Jupiter expansion ritual. Time, Thursday, Jupiter hour, sound, Jupiter tone, 183.58 Hz, and Guru mantra, Om Gram Grim Gram Sa Gurave Nama. Visualization, Jupiter yantra. Intention, expanding abundance consciousness. Duration, 27 minutes, Jupiter's number. Here's our research project. Students will design and test a planetary frequency protocol for enhancing specific planetary energies, mitigating challenging transits, accelerating consciousness evolution. Measurement tools, EEG, brainwave patterns, HRV, heart rate variability, subjective experience reports, and synchronicity tracking. Alright. Final lecture in this video is lecture 12. I'm going over the cosmological synthesis toward a unified field theory of astrology. Our objective is to integrate all previous lectures into a single coherent framework and explore future evolution of astrological science. Part 1, the grand unification postulate. Astrology, metaphysics, and quantum physics describe the same reality at different levels. Quantum level, wave functions, probabilities, entanglement. Astrological level, planetary patterns, aspects, transits. Metaphysical level, archetypes, karma, consciousness, all interconnected through mathematical transformations. Part 2, we have the unified field equations, presenting the complete mathematical framework. Consciousness field equation, where our first sigil shows up 2 times equals consciousness wave function. K equals propagator, karmic carryover, natal consciousness, and the birth chart. And that's right here, actually. And AP equals planetary amplitude. SP equals planetary action, archetypal influence. Temporal unfolding operator. All right, you have another equation where H are Hamiltonians, energy operators for each system. Here's our reality manifestation formula. Reality equals observer multiplying by astrology, multiplied by metaphysics, multiplied by quantum. Part 3 is the future evolution of astrology. Technological integration, AI astrology assistants processing millions of charts. I'm going to be the first to help this make it happen. Quantum computers calculating probability amplitudes. Neural astrological interfaces, direct brain chart connection. Holographic chart projection systems, scientific validation. We have large-scale statistical studies, quantum entanglement experiments, consciousness measurement during transits, genetic, epigenetic correlations with planetary cycles. Consciousness evolution, astrology as a tool for mass consciousness elevation, collective chart analysis for global transformation, interstellar astrology applying to exoplanets, other civilizations, time travel implications, so chart analysis across timelines. Okay, coming soon, we're going to be discussing more of these in more detail. So part 4, the Master Practitioner's Code, the 12 Principles of Cosmological Synthesis, Holism, every chart is a whole greater than its parts, multiplicity, multiple simultaneous truths, Western, Vedic, etc. Probability, destiny is a probability distribution, not a fixed path. Consciousness, the observer changes what is observed. Temporality, time is holographic, not linear. Vibration, everything is frequency and resonance. Interconnection, all charts are entangled in the cosmic web. Evolution, charts evolve with consciousness. Responsibility, knowledge implies ethical application. Mystery, the unknown always exceeds the known. Service, wisdom must serve liberation. Unity, all systems point toward one cosmic truth. Here's our final practical synthesis, the Life Chart Reading 2.0. Students will perform a complete reading, integrating triune chart analysis, Western Vedic Decanic, temporal synthesis, dasha, progressions, transits, quantum probability assessment, consciousness evolution recommendations, and practical ritual prescriptions. Here's our graduation requirement. Each student must perform a master synthesis reading for a client, write a 10,000 word thesis on one astrological synthesis, must be original, develop one new technique integrating multiple systems, and pass an oral examination defending their unified astrological philosophy. So here's our epilogue, the living tradition. You are no longer students of astrology. If you watch this full video, you are co-creators of cosmological understanding. The systems we have studied, Western, Vedic, Egyptian, Babylonian, Chinese, Tibetan, and the emerging quantum metaphysical synthesis are not completing truths, but complementary perspectives on a reality too vast for any single framework. Your task is not to choose between systems, but to hold attention of their differences until a higher synthesis emerges in your consciousness. You are the translators between cosmic languages, the navigators of multidimensional time, the conscious collaborators with planetary intelligence. Remember, the stars don't compel, they invite. The planets don't determine, they suggest. The transits don't dictate, they offer. Your consciousness is the final variable in every astrological equation, the wild card in every celestial prediction. The mystery that keeps astrology alive is both science and art. Go now and practice this synthesis with humility and courage. The cosmos is speaking in 1,000 tongues. You have learned to listen. Now learn to respond in your own authentic voice, adding to the great conversation that spans the ages and connects all beings under the same starry sky. The Chancellor's Benediction, Institute of Advanced Astrology, Metaphysics, and Quantum Innovation. From the many systems, the one truth. From the one truth, the many paths. Subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.